Good morning, everybody out there watching DerbyNewsNetwork.com. Thank you for joining us for Day 3 of the 2013 USARS Championship. We're about to get into the second game of the day. First game that counts today is going to be Chicago Red Hots versus Antagonist Roller Derby. We'll run through the rosters here for you real quick. Antagonist, playing for Antagonist, we've got number 10, Tabitha Marler, number 11, Robin Barrow, number 12, Taylor Williams, number 13, Lahala Kalava, number 14, Rachel Smotter, number 16, Katrina Heiberger, number 17, Kendall McIntosh, number 18, Ronnie Kahn, number 21, Sarah O'Donohue, number 22, Rebecca Root, number 35, Grianne Hunter, number 36, Laura Madsen, number 42, Maria Kidwell, number 45, Aaron Holderson, number 73, Mia Schwartz, number 76, Jordan Burnett, number 80, Samantha Adams, number 91, Alyssa Prey, and number 99, Kanisha Rodney.
And for the Chicago Red Hots in the white, we have number 00, Busty Brawbender, number 10, Kola Loka, number 11, Danny Get Your Guns, number 12, Iceberg. Number 138, Abita Down. Number 15, Simonis. Number 18, Rusty Razor Skates. Number 286, Allison Chains. Number 4, Molly Hacker. Number 500, Pina Carlotta. Number 53, Kylie Hoza. Number 6, Ace of Grace. Number 7, Nini Baby. Number 787, Effin' Fed. Number 8, Cruel Whip. Number 89, Val Capone. And number 9, Ringo Spar. And looks like we are ready to go. First up on the Sure Grip Jammer line, number 10, Kola Loka against number Alyssa Prey. Yes, Alyssa Prey, number 91 for Antagonist, gets right out front, and Jordan Burnett in perfect position to keep the pivot in the pack, keep the pivot contained. Number 8, Cruel Whip, struggling to get out. Now Kola Loka and Cruel Whip trying to get up, but Jordan Burnett containing them both right now. Alyssa Prey quickly making her way around into scoring position to put the first marks on the board. Cruel Whip still unable to make any headway against Jordan Burnett. Jordan Burnett just a brilliant positional blocker, and Alyssa Prey around the outside gets a whip from the same pivot. Jordan Burnett just having a great jam right off the bat. And Alyssa Prey threw for 5 points, first on the board, Antagonist.
Now, Bulldog, this morning, this bout is going to determine whether or not Washington takes home all of the trophies or whether Illinois can break in and take home some trophies for themselves.
That's right. This is actually, if Antagonist wins this, then it is a guaranteed not only Pacific Northwest but Washington State sweep, although technically Antagonist does have some skaters from Oregon, a couple of skaters from the Portland Rosebuds, so almost a complete Washington State sweep, but really Pacific Northwest. All three of these teams already doing the Pacific Northwest proud. Dandy, Get Your Guns, number 11 in the white for Chicago Red Hots at the back of the pack, stuck behind number 42 Maria Kidwell and number 16 Katrina Heiberger. Simonis way ahead of the pack, and she completely helpless to do anything because she cannot back up, and she just have to wait for the pack to catch up to her. Number 80, Samantha Adams, the jammer for Antagonist, now getting around Iceberg. Iceberg going to the penalty box. That's going to drop the Chicago Red Hots down 2 blockers. Abita Down already in there. So Samantha Adams now out racing Simonis, but Simonis gets out too far ahead again and cannot break away. Now finally gets the signal. Gets a little steeplechase signal. And actually, I stand corrected. They were creating the pack. That was all of the blockers. I misread that one, right? They were actually just breaking away and forming the pack as the foremost group of blockers, consisting all of one team.
So Antagonist already stretching out their lead. 9 points on the board. Chicago yet to answer. We want to say hello to one of the viewers at home who's given us some feedback in the DNN chat room. Gil, thanks for watching back home and listening in. We're going into an official timeout. This official timeout is brought to you by Rydell Skates. Unmatched quality, unmatched performance. They make the skates right here in the United States, handmade by expert craftsmen for over 65 years. Be sure to check them out next time you're looking for a great boot with a great fit.
All right, head referee referee Soundgarden went over to the antagonist bench and said something to Coach Hendrick, but I don't see a change on the scoreboard. No change in the penalty box. Maria Kidwell, though, in the penalty box, actually. Possibly that was the change. But right now, number 12, Taylor Williams jamming for antagonist against number 10, Cola Loca for Chicago Redhots. Antagonist in the black and Chicago Redhots in the white. Taylor Williams and Cola Loca neck and neck in the pack, but Laura Madsen, the antagonist pivot, in the front, in control of the on point. And containing Cola Loca. It's like the Chicago Redhots pivot. That's Ace of Grace, number 6, dropping back as well. Now Cola Loca gets around Laura Madsen, the antagonist pivot, and is now trying to catch up to Taylor Williams. But Taylor Williams right now in control of the clock, the lead active scorer. Taylor Williams leaps across takes a little bite out of the infield, leaps across, gets through all 4 points. A little excitement there early this morning.
Very nice jump for as early in the morning as we are. Beautiful play. She came in, saw that the outside was full of the opposite team, so she said, I'm going to take the inside without moving her team members. She's just going to jump it over, put the 4 points on the board, and get out of there before the Red Hots can answer. 0-13, 26-7 remaining on the clock, and we're ready to go again.
And the Jordan Burnett, the Spirit Fingers, anyone who's familiar with Pacific Northwest skating, you're probably familiar with Jordan Burnett, also known as Juliet Bravo with the Rat City Roller Girls. But she's well known for her Spirit Fingers on the jammer line. And a very exciting skater, although she prefers to block. But now jamming and lead active scorer for antagonist. Gets into the pack on a scoring pass, dodges around Val Capone. The cruel whip, the jammer for Chicago, and getting knocked down by Kendall McIntosh. Kendall McIntosh going to the penalty box for a low block, technical. And now, but cruel whip also going to the penalty box. That is the jammer for the Chicago Redhots. And the pivot also in the penalty box. That means that there is no potential active scorer. This is a power jam. Jordan Burnett on another scoring pass, dodges around Rusty Brawbender, gets a 5-point, gets another 5 points for antagonist. First grand slam of the jam. But now it is antagonists only have one blocker on the track right now as Ronnie Kahn going to the penalty box. She's gonna get waved off because only 2 blockers can be sitting down in the penalty box at a time, and it's already full. And just as she wanders off, Alyssa Prey stands up in the penalty box, so she could have actually sat down. But right now, Jordan Burnett still on a power jam. In spite of a 3-on-1 pack advantage, Jordan Burnett comes up with 15 points. Sorry, a 3-on-1 pack advantage for Chicago.
So already we're seeing Chicago being plagued by penalties. Losing both active scorers during that last jam to the penalty box really doesn't help them put any points on the board. Let's see if they can change that up. They are going to have a pivot out there this time, but nobody starting on the jammer line. Just number 21, Sarah O'Donohue for antagonist, currently eligible to become lead active scorer.
And Allison Shane's leaping onto the track only to go straight double checking. She might be going back to her bench. Yeah, she's going back to her bench. She arrived on the track just a fraction of a second after the whistle, and the referees sent her back to the bench. So Chicago skating one player short. Sarah O'Donohue up to the front, eyeballing Cola Loca. Cola Loca, the pivot for Chicago Redhots, hip checks her out of bounds. Sarah O'Donohue back at the rear of the pack. Excuse me. And Kylie Hoza at the rear of the pack, doing a very good job of containing Sarah O'Donohue. Well, she's getting some help from Danny Get Your Gun and Cola Loca and Cruel Whip. They're all quadruple teaming Sarah O'Donohue. Now Sarah O'Donohue looking a little frustrated. She's just very cautiously approaching the pack. Up front, Cruel Whip, the jammer for the Chicago Redhots, facing a three wall of antagonists. Finally gets past Samantha Adams at the front of the pack and becomes a lead active scorer, but immediately Mia Schwartz The pivot for Antagonist takes off, and Cruel Whip calling off the jam. No score.
Lots of crazy action during that last jam there. And if you want to get crazy, be sure to visit crazyskates.com. Check out their new lightweight kingpins for those awesome Venus plates that come in so many amazing colors. crazyskatecompany.com.
Sarah O'Donohue, the jammer for Antagonist in the penalty box. So that means that it's right now the initiative goes to Chicago Redhots jammer Simonis. Simonis at the front. Allison Chains, the pivot for Chicago Redhots, up ahead as well. Now the pack technically is it was in the is in the back there. Now Taylor Williams and Kanisha Rodney in the goat pen of the Chicago Redhots. All four blockers holding back the Antagonist blockers. Kanisha Rodney still back there. Simonis, though, is the lead active scorer, gets into the pack. Rebecca Root did take off after her, but doesn't get into the pack in time. So it's going to be a 4-0 jam for Chicago Redhots. Chicago Redhots finally on the board.
That's it. 21:30 remaining on the clock. Chicago Redhots finally answering some points, 4:28. And let's see how it continues as we look to see who's on the Sure Grip jam line. It's going to be number 10, Kola Loka, for the Redhots, facing off against number 91, Alyssa Prey.
Sarah O'Donohue, number 21, still in the penalty box for Antagonist, but she was able to switch out the jammer cover because she was not the active scorer. After that jam, Alyssa Prey weaving her way through, gets around Allison Chains, up to the front. A big whip from Jordan Burnett takes her around. Ace of Grace, the pivot for Chicago Redhots, but right behind comes up Kola Loka, the jammer for the Chicago Redhots. And so now just a couple of strides separate the two, and Alyssa Prey is going to play the safety, calls off the jam, and no score.
That was a nice, fast pack going on there. Remember, if you want to go fast too, you can skate a blue streak with Fast Girl Skates, designers of the Blue Streak boot with unparalleled universal comfort, fit, style, and performance. Visit fastgirlskates.com to check out the Blue Streak.
And now we've got number 73, Mia Swartz, against number 11, Danny Get Your Guns. That is Chicago Redhots in the white, Antagonist in the black. Both jammers facing a fierce defense. Mia Swartz up against a three-wall of Kylie Hoza, Ringo Spar, and Busty Brabender. Danny Get Your Guns running into Maria Kidwell and Sarah O'Donohue and Katrina Heiberger, but both jammers, before I finish that sentence, both jammers burst through. But Mia Swartz, the jammer for Antagonist, just barely ahead of Danny Get Your Guns. Breathing down her neck, she calls off the jam.
Danny Get Your Guns there saw that Schwartz was about to break the pack, moved over right behind her, and just followed her right out of the pack, sneaking out without anybody being aware. And that's a very effective strategy for shutting down the jam, because the other jammer is going to have to call it so the lead does not change.
And it looks like both teams one blocker down, but for Chicago Redhots, it's the pivot, Simonis. So that means that they have only one potential scorer, and Taylor Williams breaks out of the pack, becomes lead active scorer. Kanisha Rodney and Rebecca Root up front, trying to hold back, but Kola Loka able to break through. But about a half a lap behind Taylor Williams. Taylor Williams has a lot of speed, gets around Iceberg easily, just bounces off a shoulder check from Allison Chains and spins around, gets through the pack, calls off the jam, 4-0 Antagonist.
Williams, as she came into the pack, took the inside line as she saw that last blocker and spun around on the inside line. It was great taking that shoulder check with ease, staying up, and that's an important thing. You got to be able to stay up to be able to call off the jam under the USARS rule set. 18:26 remain on the clock. 4:32. Antagonist still with a strong lead, and we're taking off again.
And the 3-on-2 pack advantage for Antagonist. Rusty Razor Skates, the jammer for Chicago, the first time jamming in this game. Number 18 for Chicago. And Jordan Burnett's jamming for the second time, gets around the outside and becomes lead active scorer. Small pack advantage, and they are wielding it well. Right now, Rusty Razor Skates trying to get past Ronnie Kahn and Kendall McIntosh. Alyssa Prey wedges her way in front of Rusty Razor Skates. Now beat it down, trying to trying to pop back Alyssa Prey. Trying to leverage her to the rear of the pack. Manages to do so, but here comes Jordan Burnett on a scoring pass. Dodges around, just out finesses Abita down. Abita down actually fell down, and Jordan Burnett managed to somehow stay on her skates, even though they looked like they got tangled up briefly, and gets a grand slam for Antagonist. Simonis got out of the penalty box now and is racing away, is now the active scorer for Chicago. Just dips into the pack and is going to, Simonis is going to get 2 points. Looking for a score for Antagonist, but it looks like there's no points on that second scoring pass. She got into the pack first, but didn't get any points, so a 5-2 jam in favor of Antagonist, but great effort by Chicago Redhawks pivot, Simonis. Managed to salvage something from that jam.
Yes, absolutely. Chicago Redhawks finally making some movement on the board. Another 2 points, taking them up to 6.
Samantha Adams, number 80, around the outside, but Allison Chains is there, and Kylie Hoza takes her out with a hip check, drops to the back of the pack. Jammer for Chicago Redhawks, Cola Loca in the far rear behind 3 Antagonist blockers, Taylor Williams, Mia Schwartz, and Katrina Heiberger. And there goes Samantha Adams getting around to Danny Get Your Guns, the pivot for Chicago Redhawks, and Chicago Redhawks pivot, Danny Get Your Guns takes off. Becomes the active scorer for Chicago, but there's Samantha Adams into the pack on a scoring pass. Weaves her way through the pack, gets around Kylie Hoza untouched. I think that doesn't happen too often. But gets 4 points for Antagonist, calls it off.
Samantha Adams, as she came into the pack, she turns around, she sees where the pivot for the Red Hots is, like nearly on the back of the pack. She furiously hitting her hips to call off the jam. Luckily, those 4 whistles blew before the Red Hots could put any points on the board for Antagonist. The Red Hots definitely doing a good job, though, here, getting their active scores out of the pack.
That's right, forcing the call off and keeping the bleeding to a minimum. But so far, Antagonist really dominating this first half. Cruel Whip, number 8, from behind the 3-wall. Laura Madsen, Robin Barrow, and Kanisha Rodney holding back. But Robin Barrow going to the penalty box. Now only 2 blockers in front. And it looks like Simonis, the pivot, also following closely behind. But Rebecca Root finds a path up the inside and just out of nowhere gets through. So she is now the lead active scorer for Antagonist. She just she was at the rear of the pack for so long. You know, it reminds me of some horse races where, you know, the top seed will just sit in the back, wait for that opening. Then you get that opening, you just pour on the speed, and you just get right through, catch the entire field unsuspecting, and that's exactly what Rebecca Root did, or that's what it looked like from where I'm sitting. But now on a scoring pass, running into a 3-wall, we've got an Iceberg, number 12, Abita Down, number 138, and Cruel Whip, number 8, with a 3-wall. Now she gets around Iceberg, but Rebecca Root still struggling to get around the other 2 blockers, Cruel Whip and Abita Down. Abita Down almost drives Rebecca Root out of bounds. So Rebecca Root not as successful as that first pass, but does get 3 points, calls off the jam before Simonis can get into the pack.
And that's something you see a lot with Antagonist jammers, is they will patiently bide their time, wait for it, see where the holes are going to open up, and then they'll turn on the speed button and they just shoot out of that pack quickly. And what we've seen from Simonis on the Red Hots, though, as a pivot with the stripe on the head, able to react very quickly and at least keep the bleeding to a minimum.
Alyssa Prey, number 91, for the Antagonist, going against number 10, Cola Loca. And always familiar sight on the Chicago Red Hots jammer line. Now the pack getting very spread out. Chicago Red Hots, 2 of the blockers dropping back. Kylie Hoza just struggling to keep up to a very fast-paced pack. And Allison James going to the penalty box. That means that right now, since Kylie Hoza is nowhere near the pack, there's only 1 blocker in the pack for Chicago Red Hots. That's Ace of Skates. And up front, we've got Jordan Burnett and Kendall McIntosh keeping the pace very fast. Cola Loca doesn't look like she's struggling too much to keep up, but is not catching up nor passing. And she's still on her initial pass, along with Alyssa Prey. Both jammers, it looks like a speed line right now. So And that happens sometimes. I think I'm not sure what the strategy is here, to be honest. I mean, it's generally a good idea to get at least one jammer out, but Antagonist, I think, opting simply to protect their score for one jam. It does look like they got Robin Barrow there on one of their blockers, so they're now at full strength, and now they're slowing it down. So it looks like they decided they wanted to give Robin Barrow, give their team a chance to get back up to full strength. Empty out the penalty box on their side, and then they slowed down and gave the jammer an opportunity. But nevertheless, the jammers did not get out of the pack that time.
And we've seen that a couple times throughout the weekend where if there are blockers in a penalty box and you've got the score lead Antagonist is already built up, go ahead and the teams are doing the let's race the pack around and empty out the penalty box. It's a good way to get your team members back onto the track. Did it really benefit Antagonist this time? Chicago was able to pretty much empty out their penalty box. However, Cola Loca, the jammer, going to the penalty box, so perhaps it did benefit Antagonist this time.
Well, it turned out, but Cola Local wasn't in the penalty box when they were doing that. So yeah, it's a judgment call. If you feel like your team is you'd rather have your team at full strength, even if it allows the other team to get to full strength. Well, and I mean, so far, you can't really fault Antagonist. They are playing a brilliant game so far, and you can see on the scoreboard there's Maria Kidwell going to the penalty box as jammer. So now both potential active scorers in the penalty box. Therefore, no one has the initiative. The jam is called dead, and the jammer covers will be swapped out to different team members, and Maria Kidwell and Cola Loca will become blockers in the penalty box.
Want to give some more sponsor love to Derby Skins, unique, fun, flirty roller derby apparel. Stop by derbyskins.com, that's with a Z, for all your athletic apparel needs. Don't forget they've got an Instagram contest going on right now for $50.
So now the jammer caps have been passed to Laura Madsen for Antagonist and Iceberg, number 12, for the Chicago Redhawks. Chicago Redhawks in white, Antagonist in the black. And now looks like Cruel Whip of the Chicago Redhawks doing this same maneuver at a very fast pace, and Antagonist giving chase. But finally, Antagonist drops back, slows down, and allows Laura Madsen to get around Cruel Whip. But Cruel Whip drops back just enough to get into the pack, and then takes off, becomes the active scorer for Chicago Redhawks. But about half a lap behind Laura Madsen. Laura Madsen catching up quickly to the pack. Dodges to the outside. Val Capone cuts her off on the outside lane. Moves to the inside, and Iceberg is there. And now the Busty Brabender and Cola Loca form a three-wall. Laura Madsen getting nowhere and senses Cruel Whip coming up. Calls off the jam. 2 points Antagonist.
A very good job there by the Red Hots defense. The Red Hots have been able to show throughout the tournament that their defense can really field a strong wall. Iceberg there managing to keep the the lead active scorer in the pack and ends up forcing the call off so that not too many points are gained by the other team.
Absolutely, and now the score 46-6 in favor of Antagonist with just over 9 minutes left in the first half. Jammer number 91, Alyssa Prey, still a neck and neck with Cola Loca, but Cola Loca puts on a burst of speed and just bursts past Kendall McIntosh. Grania Hunter, number 35 for Antagonist, trying to catch her, but Cola Loca off to the races. And now we have both the pivot and jammer for Antagonist trying to get out. Kendall McIntosh gives Alyssa Prey a shove, and now the Antagonist jammer is now the active scorer. But here's Cola Loca hits the pack for Chicago Redhawks on a scoring pass and quickly gets about halfway through the pack and gets 2 points for Chicago. Calls it off, so a 2-0 jam for Chicago. But that brings them to 8 points. Only one of the few jams that they've won in this first half.
Yeah, Chicago's struggling to put points on the board to beat out the active scorer for Antagonist getting out of the pack there. But when they do, they're able to get through and put at least a few points on the board. It's going to be up to that Chicago defense to take on and hold back the two potential active scorers to make the difference in this game.
That's right. Now both teams at full strength. Ace of Grace, number 6, jamming for Chicago Redhawks. Dodges a hip check from Sarah O'Donohue, but runs into Mia Schwartz. Sarah O'Donoghue reestablishes position, and she's backed up by Mia Schwartz and Samantha Adams. Now Ace of Grace way at the back of the pack. Jordan Burnett, the jammer for Antagonist, moving up the inside lane, knocks down Danny Get Your Guns, and Danny Get Your Guns takes out Val Capone along the way. Now both jammers were following each other, but Jordan Burnett cut off by Allison Chains and Kylie Hoza. And that means that we have Ace of Grace up front, but Mia Schwartz takes her out with a shoulder check on the outside of turn 4. And now a big whip from Sarah O'Donoghue sends Jordan Burnett, the Antagonist jammer, out as lead active scorer. And now Antagonist at the front of the pack. All 4 blockers. Katrina Heiberger with a big shoulder check takes down Danny Get Your Guns. Danny Get Your Guns, the pivot for Chicago Redhawks, was trying to get out to become active scorer. Now both potential active scorers are getting owned by Samantha Adams and Mia Schwartz. Danny Get Your Guns and Ace of Grace. Either one of them can get out and become active scorer, but neither one is able to get past that defense. And 3 points put on the board by Jordan Burnett of Antagonist.
Schwartz and Adams there demonstrating exactly what you have to do. You got to hold back the potential active scorers from the other team, especially when your team's active scorer is out. It's the most effective way to put points on the board and continue to be able to put points on the board while that jam clock is ticking.
That is right, and now the time coming short in the first period. Still another 30 minutes of action after this, of course, but Laura Madsen right now taking off, effortlessly getting through the pack. Cola Loca, number 10, the pivot for Chicago Redhawks, trying to get around, leaps across the infield, just slides past Robin Burrow and becomes active scorer for Chicago Redhawks. Rusty Razor skates in the pack as with the jammer star, but now is just a blocker for the Chicago Redhawks. Laura Madsen weaving her way just as a diagonal straight across the Chicago defense, gets up to the front, but doesn't pass the last 2 blockers completely before the jam gets called off. 2 points, Antagonist.
We want to thank Rollerbones for bringing part of this broadcast to you. Rollerbones wheels and Bones bearings make for a winning combination. We've seen lots of people visiting their booth and being really excited about what they're seeing there, so you should visit their website, check out what they've got to offer. I know I personally bought that great bearing tool they have, which makes it so easy to change out your bearings.
Number 17, Kendall McIntosh jamming for Antagonist against Meanie Baby, number 7 for Chicago Redhawks. First time jamming in this game. Meanie Baby has a wide open outside lane and covered by Simonis. It looked like Grania Hunter was coming in for a shoulder check, but Simonis cut her off beautifully. And Meanie Baby now the lead active scorer for Chicago. Kendall McIntosh still in the pack, moving up the inside lane. Dukes to the outside. Allison Chains gets her with a hip check, but Busty Broadbender manages to get in front, but Kendall McIntosh, a quick move to the inside, covered by Samantha Adams and Grania Hunter, her teammate, and she's out for as active scorer. But Meanie Baby gets into the pack well ahead of Kendall McIntosh and calls off the jam. 2 points for Chicago.
Chicago there doing exactly what they needed to do to move the score forward and shutting down the other potential active scorers while their active scorer was out. They were able to make a little bit of movement on the clock, and the active scorer for the other team did get out. And they're just going to have to continue to whittle away at it and not let Antagonist put more points on the board. With only 4 minutes left in this half, they definitely need to see some points movement.
Yes, indeed. Danny Get Your Guns, number 11, at the rear of the pack, held there by Maria Kidwell and Katrina Heiberger. And number 21, Sarah O'Donoghue, the jammer for the Antagonist, gets past Cola Loca. Cola Loca still held in. Sorry. That's not funny. Sarah O'Donoghue calling off the jam. Cola Loca got around Mia Schwartz and Jordan Burnett.
And here's what happened. Burnett was going to try to whip around there to catch Cola Loca, and Schwartz was already on the inside line, so it opened up a hole for Cola Loca to come through. And I think got a little distracted there as there was a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction going on from that whip. But we were able to see Cola Loca get out there, shut down the jam. Good job by Cola Loca. No movement on the board for either team during that jam.
And number 18, Rusty Razor Skates for Chicago, facing off against Taylor Williams, number 12 of Antagonist. Antagonist in the black, Chicago in the white. Rusty Razor Skates behind a 2-wall of Robin Barrow, number 11, and number 22, Rebecca Root. And a big smile on her face, too. She's having a good time. That's important. First thing is it's fun. But we've got Taylor Williams bypassing Allison Chains and Kylie Hoza, finds an open inside lane, courtesy of Kanisha Rodney and Laura Madsen, and becomes lead active scorer for Antagonist. And now it looks like Simona's taken off, becomes active scorer for Chicago. Rusty Razor Skates in the penalty box. And technically, Rusty Razor Skates, I think, should move over. There she goes, moves over into the blocker position. And Taylor Williams going to the penalty box. Going to the penalty box, and she was the active scorer. That means we have a power jam. Simona's, though, taking her time, and jam ends. Okay, that's
uncertain what happened there. Williams came off the track in turn just over the box line. Didn't see the call from the refs. Her bench coach telling her to go around the track to the penalty box. She kind of went around slowly, and Simona's on the track was unsure whether or not there was a penalty issued to Simona's. So that's why everything kind of went slower there, and then the jam ended. So I'm uncertain what happened there.
I think that may have been a mistake, potentially a mistake by the referees, because there was a clear active scorer for Antagonist, and that meant that regardless of who went to the penalty box, there were, as long as there was at least a pivot or a jammer for Chicago Redhawks on the track, then either one could become the active scorer. Even after Taylor Williams went to the penalty box, but it looks like Simona's did become an active scorer. I believe that was an error. In fact, but I mean, of course, that's for the after party. Right now, the effect is the jam. And I could also be mistaken myself. But right now, we've got a very fast pack. Antagonist pushing the pace, and Alyssa Prey far at the back of the pack, and Danny Get Your Guns just trying to keep up. So it looks like Antagonists want to get their skaters out of the penalty box.
And they could do it right now because they are in the front of the pack. They have, currently a 41-point lead. It's not going to hurt them to take the clock down and empty out the box. It looks like they may even be taking us right into the halftime.
Well, Taylor Williams is out of the penalty box. The period clock has expired, and the time for the jam is going to expire as well. And that is the end of the period. So Antagonist takes us out with a little display of speed skating.
Absolutely. And if you joined us for day one, these same two teams came up against each other. Antagonist taking that game 9-139. Antagonist not taking the game as far at the moment. So Chicago definitely bringing a stronger game this time. Chicago just having some trouble again with getting out a lead active scorer and holding back the potential active scorers for the Antagonist to be able to make any headway on the scoreboard there. We are going to take a short break for halftime. We're going to be back shortly. You are watching Derby News Network and the 2013 USARS Championships.
And we're back. All right. Ready for the next half. Very quickly clear up a situation. There was that penalty on Taylor Williams that released the jammer, that made them swap out the jammer cap. Got the clarification on that, and it was Taylor Williams was indicated as the active scorer, but the outside pack ref was simultaneously indicating a low block on Taylor Williams. So the jam ref didn't see it, but the outside pack ref did. And so once the outside pack ref was able to communicate to the jam ref that he had called a low block, then that counteracted the active scorer. Taylor Williams had that status removed. She did not become active scorer, and since Rusty Razor Skates was in the penalty box already. That meant that there was no there was no jammer on the track, therefore no one could become active scorer. And that is why they swapped out the jammer cover. And you also, in case, if you noticed, if you go back and play, you'll see that as soon as Taylor Williams went to the penalty box, the referee that was following Simonis, who had gone out on good faith as active scorer, was being told to return to the pack. You could see her slowing down. So that's what happened. It was actually, there was no active scorer. Taylor Williams was declared active scorer, but that was taken away because she had already committed a low block penalty. So we had, both jammers got away in the first jam, no score, and now we have Taylor Williams jamming for antagonist, gets through the pack, slides out of bounds and attempts to call it off, but she was out of bounds and therefore no longer eligible to call off the jam until she was upright and in bounds again. So she comes back in, clinches all 5 points. Simonis did get out of the pack and became active scorer, but did not get around in time. Now you have to be upright and in bounds in order to call off the jam in USARS. She went out of bounds and was on the ground. So either one of those by itself would have prevented her from calling it off, but she did both. There's no penalty associated with that. It's simply the call off does not count. So now I think we're all cut up. Alyssa Prey, number 91, jamming for antagonist in the black against Danny Get Your Guns, number 11 for Chicago in the white. Alyssa Prey fighting a three-wall, gets around Pina Carlotta, but now gets just nudged out of bounds with a hip check from Allison Chains. Danny Get Your Guns at the far back behind Ronnie Kahn and Kendall McIntosh. And there goes Alyssa Prey out of the pack. Cola Loca, the pivot for the Chicago Redhawks, trying to get out. Runs into Samantha Adams, knocks down Mia Swartz, and just dodges around Samantha Adams to get out of the pack. Becomes active scorer for the Chicago Redhawks, but here comes Alyssa Prey, a full half lap ahead of Cola Loca. And takes a hip whip off of Ronnie Kahn, gets around Allison Chains, calls off the jam for all 4 points for antagonist.
And again, you see that same front wall from antagonist, just able to hold things up. Adam and Schwartz make a great double wall, holding back those potential active scorers from breaking the pack. They're very able, very aware of where everybody is. A little bit of sponsor love. Rydell Skates, handmade by expert craftsmen in the U.S. for over 65 years. Visit them at rydellskates.com.
And number 21, Sarah O'Donohue, jamming for antagonist. Does a truck and trailer briefly with Jordan Burnett and gets out of the pack, gets around Simonis, the pivot for Chicago Red Hats. Now Simonis going pivot to pivot with Jordan Burnett, trying to get around, become active scorer, dodges to the inside as Jordan Burnett gets sent off for a penalty. That's going to be, so now the active scorer for Chicago, Simonis. But here comes Sarah Donahue, gets into the pack on a scoring pass, gets around Ace of Grace, knocked to the outside, does just barely get her hips ahead of that three-wall and to claim all 4 points for antagonist.
And if you're a big fan of Sarah O'Donohue, you can find her at Fast Girl Skates. Their knowledgeable staff represents all facets of roller derby. Women's, men's, juniors, banked. If you play it, they can relate to it and have what you need. The largest selection of skates and gear for everyone. FastGirlSkates.com.
And number 18, Rusty Razor Skates, jamming for Chicago Redhawks against number 36, Laura Madsen for antagonist. Taylor Williams moving around the outside to help out her jammer, trying to block, break up that two-wall. Cola Loca and Allison Chains, and now Kylie Hoza making it a three-wall for Chicago. Laura Madsen dropping back, taking a little more cautious approach. Once again, Taylor Williams trying to bust up that three-wall, moves to the outside. Now Laura Madsen jukes to the inside, but gets sandwiched between Kylie Hoza and Allison Chains. But now a quick move around the outside, gets around Allison Chains. She is out of the pack. Becomes active scorer. Cola Loca took off too soon. Laura Madsen was not yet out of the pack and was not yet active scorer. Cola Loca took off, had to drop back, and that means that drops her back a half lap behind Laura Madsen. Laura Madsen approaching the pack, Rusty Razor Skates had sent to the penalty box. That means only 2 blockers left, Kylie Hoza and Allison Chains. Laura Matson gets into the pack and calls off the jam. Doesn't get past that 2 wall, so settles for 2 points for Antagonist.
Cola Loca not real happy with that. One thing you notice there, though, the Antagonist awareness, they slowed up the pack. They saw Cola Loca there. They saw Cola Loca following out their jammer, and they knew that if they could get 10 feet between them and Cola Loca, she would not become the active scorer until she dropped back. Good strategy by Antagonist during that last jam.
That's right, very aware. That's what this is all about. You have to watch the jammer and the pivot for the other team. There's 2 skaters to watch on that first pass. And it takes a whole team working together. As you just saw, they all had to drop back. If any one of them had maintained a connection with Cola Loca, stayed within 10 feet of her, then she would have been able to follow Laura Matson right out of the pack. But Samantha Adams is the lead active scorer for Antagonist. Once again, Antagonist quickly and efficiently getting their jammer out of the pack and becoming active scorer. Simonis, the pivot for Chicago Redhawks, in a duel with Kendall McIntosh. But finally, after a full lap, Simonis finally able to get out and become active scorer. But that's nearly a full lap advantage for Samantha Adams as she's into the pack on a scoring pass before Simonis can make up even a quarter of the track distance.
Good awareness by Samantha Adams. She was in the pack. She looked around to find out where the active score was, saw she had some time to work her way, get all those points before she called off the jam. Then she saw Simonis approaching the back of the pack. Try to squish all those words together there. And decides to call off the jam. I want to tell you about Sure Grip, maker of roller skates, wheels, and plates. 75 years strong out there on the Sure Grip jam line. It's number 8, Cruel Whip, and number 73, Schwartz.
Mia Schwartz in the black for Antagonist. Dodges around Iceberg. That was a big shoulder check on Katrina Heiberger that helped her out. But Iceberg going to the penalty box. Oh, no, excuse me. Iceberg going back to her bench. Okay, so she must have gotten onto the track late. So that means that Chicago now, I'm counting skaters. Yes, Chicago only skating with 4 skaters down. So they are skating short. Self-inflicted wound on Chicago. And Mia Schwartz is the lead active scorer. There goes Cruel Whip out of the pack, becomes active scorer for Chicago. But now Cola Loca, the only skater left in the pack. Rusty Razor Skates came out of the penalty box, but is now far ahead of the pack. Mia Schwartz calling off the jam. And she's going to get all 4 points. That was Rusty Razor Skates was out of play, and therefore a ghost point.
Early there on, you saw the same strategy by Antagonist. Sarah O'Donohue in the pack, pulling everybody back, saying, let's slow it up so that we can be the pack back here, and we can hold back the pivot for the Red Hots. And fortunately, in that change of momentum, Cruel Whip was able to sneak around him, and fortunately for Chicago, be able to get out there and stop the bleeding.
Absolutely, and now it is 12 on 12. Number 12, Iceberg for Chicago against number 12, Taylor Williams. And Taylor Williams gets around Ace of Grace at the pivot for Chicago Red Hots and becomes lead active scorer. Iceberg, the jammer for the Chicago Red Hots, and Ace of Grace, the pivot, trying to up at the front, trying to get around the Antagonist defense. Ace of Grace on the outside. Laura Madsen's shoulders are out of bounds. She has to recycle, comes back, and Laura Madsen is there again. Iceberg at the rear of the pack. Rebecca Root covering her on the outside, and her own teammates blocking her forward progress. So Rebecca Root able to contain her just by skating on the outside of her. Taylor Williams on a scoring pass now moves to the inside of Allison Chains. Allison Chains almost had the hip check, but ran into Kenesha Rodney unexpectedly. She was looking over her shoulder. I don't think she saw the Antagonist blocker that was there, and she actually got shoved into her. And that was Taylor Williams picking up 4 for Antagonist. Chicago unable to get around into scoring position.
Once again, we're seeing lots and lots of fast packs from Antagonist and a lot of craziness going on in the pack. You want to be crazy, you can visit crazyskates.com. Check out their Venus plates that come in a variety of amazing colors and the new lightweight kingpins for those plates. crazyskates.com.
Number 15, Simonis, jamming for Chicago Red Hots against number 91, Alyssa Prey for Antagonist. And Alyssa Prey just goes through a wide open center lane, Cola Loca now trying to maintain contact, but Alyssa Prey taking her time, waiting, and Cola Loca drawn out of the pack, and Kendall McIntosh out of nowhere cuts off Cola Loca. Cola Loca trying to take off and become active scorer. Kendall McIntosh reels her right back in. Now Cola Loca making another run at it, but Alyssa Prey up the inside like a knife through a bad metaphor. Alyssa Prey through, and she is a full lap ahead of Cola Loca. Cola Loca now the active scorer for Chicago. Alyssa Prey coming into the pack on the second scoring pass, calling off the jam immediately. Going to get 2 points, and Chicago, I believe, coming up empty.
Now here we see again Cola Loca at the front of the pack and ready to go, but again getting too far away from the pack and then having to wait for the pack to catch her up, letting antagonists use the slowdown strategy and keep her from being able to chase right after the scorer for antagonist, and antagonist able to put some points up on the board.
That was, in fact, an 8-point jam. She got 3 points. They were missing a ghost point. There were 2 blockers in the penalty box when Alyssa Prey got in on that second scoring pass. And so now Sarah O'Donoghue, number 21, jamming for antagonists, reaching for the whip to Jordan Burnett, but Rusty Razor Skates cuts her off. But Sarah O'Donoghue says, all right, I'll do it myself, and goes around the outside, gets out of the pack, becomes lead active scorer. Now Danny Get Your Guns, the jammer for the Chicago Redhawks, looking for the outside lane. Jordan Burnett cuts her off. Mia Schwartzgarden inside lane. Rusty Razor Skates, the pivot, is in the center of the pack, not even trying, but now moves forward. But now it's a 3-wall. Antagonist has Katrina Heiberger, Jordan Burnett, and Mia Schwartz with a 3-wall in front. And Chicago not even making a move forward. They're just now focused on Sarah O'Donoghue, who's on the scoring pass. Iceberg comes in with a shoulder check. Sarah O'Donoghue taking a little more cautious approach this time. Here comes Busty Brawbender out of the penalty box. That clears the penalty box. I spoke too soon. Mia Schwartz in the penalty box for antagonist. But Chicago at full strength now and surrounding Sarah O'Donoghue. And that's the cue apparently that's the cue for antagonist to take off. They're now in a pace line. A good almost 15 to 20 feet, about 20 now, extending the distance. But Sarah O'Donoghue able to fight her way past Allison Shanes on the inside lane, calls off the jam and claims 4 points for antagonist.
Antagonist looked to the penalty box and saw that number 35 Hunter going to the penalty box. She was behind the Chicago wall, but once she was off the track, they were in the front. They were able to take the pack and run away with it and keep Chicago from catching up and being able to field an active scorer there.
Laura Madsen, number 36, jamming for antagonist, and against number 6, Ace of Grace for Chicago. Laura Madsen just hip checks her way past Abita down. Now up to the front, Cola Loca and Laura Madsen trying just narrowly avoiding a fallen Taylor Williams. But both stay on their skates. Now a duel between Laura Madsen and Cola Loca at the front of the pack. Cola Loca raises her hands saying, hey, I'm disengaging, but gets sent to the penalty box anyway. And Laura Madsen now... she's got a smile on her face, but that was a little bit of an error. That was Robin Barreau for antagonist getting sent to the penalty box, but Ace of Grace, the jammer for Chicago, thinking they were directing her off the track, so she started to go out, but fortunately that didn't slow her down too much. The jam referee was able to communicate that she was back in, but that did cause her probably about 4 or 5 strides. But now Laura Madsen on a scoring pass. There's a 3-wall. Val Capone, Abita down, and Kylie Hoza holding her back. Abita down just ushers Laura Madsen to the outside. Laura Madsen is not getting anywhere and knows that Ace of Grace is right behind her. Calls off the jam 3 points for antagonist.
This broadcast brought to you in part by Roller Bones. If you haven't tried the Roller Bones Turbo Wheels, you're not maximizing your grip and roll. Check out Roller Bones Turbo Wheels at their website, rollerbones.com.
Jamming for antagonist is number 80, Samantha Adams. And number 15, Simonis, jamming for Chicago. Moves up the inside. Ronnie Kahn takes her down with a hip check. Picks herself back up, but she's at the rear of the pack. Samantha Adams off to the races. She is lead active scorer for Antagonist. Now Simonis, the only potential active scorer. Kololoka is now standing up in the penalty box, but right now Simonis has to get out to become active scorer, but Kendall McIntosh puts an end to that. And now once again, a shoulder check from Kendall McIntosh takes down Simonis. That's impressive because Simone is a very tall skater, has almost close to a foot, at least 8 inches of height on over Kendall McIntosh. But Kendall McIntosh took her down with a shoulder check. And just now is containing her with some fantastic positional blocking. Man, Kendall McIntosh single-handedly almost holding back Simonis of Chicago, but Kololoka making short work of the pack. A full lap behind Samantha Adams, but manages to get out, become active scorer as pivot. And Samantha Adams now calling off the jam and waiting for a score. I believe that is 4 points for Antagonist. Samantha Adams did not get around for a second scoring pass.
And we've gone into a timeout for Chicago. Kololoka, the captain for the Chicago Redhawks, calling the timeout to discuss. It looks like perhaps a point question with the jammer ref. And we get line back up. Timeout will continue to tick. This timeout is brought to you by Rydell Skates. If you visit their website, rydellskates.com, you can go to their color lab, and they've got all kind of amazing colors that you can customize your own skates. They don't have to be one solid color either. You want every panel to be a different color, you certainly can. Visit rydellskates.com. Check out that, and also check out their new Blue Streak Raw Power Just Add skater. Looks like everybody's ready to go out there. The penalty box is completely empty, so we're going to have a full 5-on-5 out on the Sure Grip jammer line. We've got number 76, Burnett, going to face off against number 18, Rusty Razor Skates. Sure Grip, maker of roller skates, wheels, and plates for 75 years strong. So we're seeing similar performance to the first game the first game I apologize, it's actually the second game on Friday when Antagonist came up against the Red Hots. And the Red Hots, though, showing that they're bringing a slightly better game here, able to put a few more points on the board and holding Antagonist to a lower score than what they made last time.
Jordan Burnett. And there are the Sparrow fingers. Jordan Burnett jamming for Antagonist. Number 76 against number 18, Rusty Razor Skates. Jordan Burnett looking for the outside lane. Allison Chains with a big shoulder check to forcing her out of bounds and to the rear of the pack. But Jordan Burnett recovering quickly, gets ahead of Rusty Razor Skates once again. Rusty Razor Skates at the rear of the pack, but she's muscled out of bounds again. A beat it down doing the honors. And now, but Burn It Down coming up now, hitching a ride with Sarah O'Donohue, but that comes up short. Now both jammers at the rear of the pack, right back to square one. Jordan Burnett running into a beat it down, crossing the track for almost forcing Jordan Burnett out of bounds. But Jordan Burnett now grabs a hold of Katrina Heiberger, gets ahead of beat it down, but Allison Chains is there. So very strong defense right now from Chicago, but Rusty Razor Skates at the jammer for Chicago not having much better luck. Maria Kidwell at the rear, just casually keeping an eye on Rusty Razor Skates. The Rusty Razor Skates very cautiously approaching this pack, a formidable pack, and Jordan Burnett is now the active scorer for the Antagonist, followed by Kololoka, who breaks out of the pack as well. Jordan Burnett dodges around Rusty Razor Skates and almost untouched for the rest of the pass. Calls off the jam, 4 points Antagonist.
Excellent defense at the beginning of this jam. We didn't have a lead active scorer until 23 seconds remained in the jam, and excellent fast skates by Burnett there, able to make it back to the pack and get some points and call off the jam with only 6 seconds left in the jam. We're down to 11 minutes, 33 seconds on the clock, and
that was a false start by Laura Madsen. very quick off the line, but she's usually just right there. That whistle is like she's off the line like a shotgun. But that time it was very clearly by about almost half a second she was ahead of the whistle.
I think she knew, too. So she hurried back over and went ahead and took her place at the 10-foot line behind the jammer line.
Yeah, I don't think there was any question in her mind or anyone else's that was a false start. So she has to pay give a little head start now to Danny Get Your Guns. There was a jammer cap swap out, but Laura Madsen quickly covering the distance, gets ahead of Danny Get Your Guns, but now behind it too. Walla beat it down, and Allison Chains beat it down, not able to force Laura Madsen out of bounds, and now falls down, but Laura Madsen stumbles over her. That's going to be a low block, a technical low block on a beat it down. Laura Madsen has to catch back up, but right now, antagonist holding back Danny Get Your Guns. So Laura Madsen able to catch up to the pack again, and so did not lose much ground after that stumble. Laura Madsen taking her time, but now both pivots have exited the pack. They are both out of play, though. Neither one of them is active scorer. Taylor Williams, the pivot for antagonist, I think was giving chase to Simonis, but I'm not sure that Simonis may not have realized how far out ahead they were, and just reflexively Taylor Williams giving chase. But there goes Laura Madsen, becomes active scorer, and Simonis steals it away. She waits. She did not. She waited patiently. Got to the front of the pack, but didn't call off the jam. It looked like she was calling off the jam, but no. Laura Madsen manages to get back ahead. So did it look like she was calling off the jam to you?
The hands came. You got to hit twice per the rules. If it doesn't happen twice, they can't blow the whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And, Madsen doing a good job there, good awareness, jumping back out. Again, though, not able to increase the distance between her and Simonis. So going to go ahead and call off the jam, not want to risk it putting any more points on the board for the Red Hots. Good decision by antagonist to go ahead and call off the jam there. Going to knock him down, set him right back out up on the sure grip jam line. It's number 91, Alyssa Prey, going to face off against number 6, Ace of Grace.
And an empty penalty box means we've got a 5-on-5 jam. Alyssa Prey quick off the line, just ahead of Ace of Grace. Ace of Grace stumbles and takes out Grania Hunter as well. So both... and it looks like Grania Hunter she's reporting back to her bench. Going to get looked at by the medics, but right now, antagonist down one skater. But Alyssa Prey gets through the pack. She is the lead active scorer. And there goes Cola Loca. She was on point for Chicago, and no one in her way, so she comes right out and becomes active scorer for Chicago. But Alyssa Prey with a full half lap as she enters into the pack, but gets knocked out of bounds immediately by Iceberg. Calls off the jam and is going to get only 2 points on that pass, but no points for Chicago. And we're going to be keeping an eye on Grania Hunter for her. It looked like possibly her right knee, although it's difficult to say, or possibly actually it looks like the medic is looking at her back, so it might be that hip bone. But she pulled herself off of the track on her own volition. So there's no extra concerns as far as the continuation of the game or anything like that. She can return to play as soon as she feels she's cleared by medical. But we've got Rusty Razor Skates number 18 jamming for Chicago. Gets knocked out of bounds by Maria Kidwell. Jordan Burnett, number 76, Spirit Fingers, gets out of the pack. She is the lead active scorer. Danny Get Your Guns up front, facing off with Katrina Heiberger, but Katrina Heiberger was a little too far ahead and could not engage. And Danny Get Your Guns is the active scorer for Chicago Red Hots. Jordan Burnett now approaching the pack on her first scoring pass, facing a 3-wall. Rusty Razor Skates a beat it down, and Kylie Hoza gets shuffled off by Beat It Down, trying to get in anywhere. And she does get 1 point. Does manage to just get 1 point, calling off the jam in time, though. So no points, Chicago again.
7 minutes, 15 remaining on the clock. Don't forget, we've still got a lot of Derby action coming for you today. At 1:30 today, it's the Juniors Exhibitions. Then at 3:15, the men's national championships. That'll be Ole Warriors taking on Your Mom men's roller derby. And then at 5, the women's national championships. Ole Rollers versus Port Tortured.
And Cola Loca just burst off the line and took the entire pack by surprise. We found a wide open outside lane, an unsuspecting defense. But Taylor Williams making short work of the Chicago defense, but still a half a lap behind Cola Loca. Kanisha Rodney sees Cola Loca, doesn't get in there in time. Laura Matchin makes contact, but Cola Loca all the way through, calls off the jam. 4 points for Chicago.
Some beautiful action by Cola Loca there as she came into the pack. She flipped around, took to the front, and gets out of that jam. That was a very nice, unique jam for Cola Loca. If you want to be unique, you'll want to visit Derby Skins for all your roller derby apparel needs: uniforms, panties, leggings, shorts, capris. For both gals and guys, go to derbyskins.com for all your needs.
Antagonists down 2 blockers. They only have only 2 blockers in the pack, Ronnie Kahn and Alyssa Prey. And we've got Rebecca Root now taking a defensive stance, making it a 3-wall. She's the jammer for Antagonists. But now Alyssa Prey and Rebecca Root stumbling over each other, but Ace of Grace not able to capitalize, and they maintain position. But now Ronnie Kahn stumbles. That allows Ace of Grace to get through, but just in time, Mia Schwartz swoops in from the penalty box. Both Mia Schwartz and Maria Kidwell getting in front of Ace of Grace just in time. And this is an interesting situation. Simona's, I believe, what must have happened, I didn't see it, and I don't see anything being indicated right now, but Rebecca Root must have just gotten far enough to become the active scorer, and then Simona's immediately took off and is now the active scorer. So the lead active scorer, but as Rebecca Root was swallowed back up by the pack, and we saw Mia Schwartz taking off after Simona's, thinking, just on reflex, saying, oh, active scorer, but we're not active scorer. But in fact, Rebecca Root had gotten out, become active scorer, but swallowed up almost immediately by the pack. Now, we do have a timeout by Antagonists. I think they want to verify that situation because that was a little unusual. But, I'm deducing that. I didn't actually see, I didn't happen to see Rebecca Root getting declared the active scorer. But I think because it just happened so quickly, she got swallowed back up by the pack, and Simonas immediately reacted and took off. But the only way that could possibly have happened is if Rebecca Root was declared active scorer, because otherwise Simonas would not have been able to become active scorer for her team. But I think Antagonists just wanted a little clarification. They went ahead and called a timeout just to make sure. But I don't think anything's going to come of it. But I think Rebecca Root was actually declared active scorer, and therefore Simonas' jam still stands. But however, no points for Chicago in spite of all the excitement.
That's right. So we stay at 14-106. Antagonist with a good lead. And 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining on the clock. It's not likely that Chicago is going to make a comeback at this point in time. Putting points on the board under this rule set, it takes a little bit more time than 4 to make up the difference between the two. But Chicago's still going to bring the game. You see number 10, Cola Loca, out there on the jam line. Going to face off against Burnett, number 76 for Antagonist with her jazz fingers. They're both having a nice discussion. That's the great thing about roller derby everywhere. All the athletes know each other. They follow each other's careers and are great friends off the track. And even before the jam starts, great friends then. But as soon as that whistle blows, I guarantee you they're out to get some blood. So.
And now Cola Loca matching the jazz fingers. So matching pair of jazz fingers on the jammer line. Cola Loca bursting up the center line. Kendall McIntosh comes in with his shoulder check, forcing Cola Loca out of bounds. And Jordan Burnett flies up the outside lane. Gets out for lead active scorer. Cola Loca now fighting her way, but Samantha Adams shuts the door and forces her out of bounds. Cola Loca coming back in, but once again, Samantha Adams out of bounds, but stepped out of bounds herself. And I'm double checking that it looks like Kola Loka going to the penalty box may have been called on a cutting, but announcer bingo time. I did not see the penalty. Here we go. Jordan Burnett through the pack, a first scoring pass, and it's all 4 points. Danny Get Your Guns is the active scorer for Chicago, but now Antagonist taking off. They're speeding up, and they're not going to let Danny Get Your Guns get any points on them, or she's going to have to earn it. And now they're very close, actually. They may potentially lap the opposing blockers, moving around very quickly. Now Chicago picking up the pace a little bit, and now managing to catch up. Now it's starting to look like that Olympic bicycle racing. I forget. There's that team chase sport where they have the four. I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about, or am I just
have no idea?
But Antagonist. Trust me, there's an Olympic, Summer Olympics bicycle racing where they just chase each other around the track. Very similar to this.
I can tell you that was good strategy by Antagonist. Going ahead and then just burning off the clock. At this point in time, that's all Antagonist really needs to do. There's not a big push for them to put more points on the board. That doesn't mean they're not going to, but Chicago definitely looking to put some more points on the board as we get into the next jam.
You should watch more Summer Olympics. That's all I'm saying. We got Rebecca Root jamming for the Antagonist against Simonas jamming for Chicago. Rebecca Root in a defensive stance, but Simonas getting sent to the penalty box for cutting the track, and that means that the initiative goes to Antagonist. Rebecca Root, the only potential active scorer right now. Once she gets out, and there she goes, a big whip from Jordan Burnett and sends her flying around the track. She's the lead active scorer now. So now Cruel Whip, number 8 for Chicago, the potential scorer for if she can get out, the only potential active scorer for Chicago, but now facing a 3-wall. Laura Madsen, Jordan Burnett, and Mia Schwartz. There's an ex-Rat City skater named Burnett Down. That's the same spelling, and that's why I keep almost saying something different. But great skater, by the way, and really nice person. But Rebecca Root now on a scoring pass, gets ahead of Kylie Hoza, but stuck behind Allison Chains, and Cruel Whip still in the pack on her initial pass. Looks for the outside lane. Jordan Burnett cuts her down, or cuts her off.
Either works. Either works.
Oh, we had a little equipment malfunction. Someone's knee armor got knocked off.
And the jam comes to an end, so their knees will be safe as they can go in and take care of them when they get off the track. There.
Good defense by Chicago. There were several laps. Rebecca Root trying to get through that scoring pass, but they held her to only 2 points, and that's with a ghost point in the box.
And we're down to 40 seconds on the period clock. Time is going to tick. We're going to put in another jam here. Number 91, Alyssa Prey up on the Sure Grip jam line. Number 15, Simonas in the penalty box currently. So only one star on the track. That means Alyssa Prey will get first shot at lead active scorer.
They're all stars on this track. But only one with a star on her helmet. That's Alyssa Prey. Of course, 2 pivots. The pivot for Chicago is Rusty Razor Skates, but she is dropping back, not making any aggressive moves yet. She is potentially the active scorer, but Simonas has come out of the penalty box, but I believe still has yet to catch up the pack to make her initial pass.
Alyssa Prey watching.
I missed that.
No, yeah, you were correct. Alyssa Prey was watching the clock as she skated that last little bit there. Saw it drop below 0. Going to go ahead and call off the jam. And I'm just waiting to see if that's going to be it. The board has not yet been updated. The whistle has not been blown. But I see the teams already lining up to slap hands. Very similar game to what we saw on Friday. Antagonist really bringing it against Chicago. However, you can see based on the score today, 14-112, that Chicago did bring a better game than on Friday. So they did take some learning from their previous. Friday's game was 139-9. So they were able to hold Antagonist to less points and put more points on the board. Just not able to put enough to take the win. Good show by both teams. Congratulations to Antagonist Roller Derby from Seattle, Washington, who does move on to take the bronze medal in the 2013 USARS Champions.
And that also means it is definitely a Pacific Northwest sweep, a Region 1 sweep of the top 3 positions. This the third place goes to Antagonist, and now it only remains to be seen in the final bout of the day. We're going to see the Ole Rollers take on Port Tortured, but both of those teams from Region 1, so they're guaranteed the 1 and 2 spots. It only remains to be seen which one takes first place. I have an opinion. I have a prediction, but I'm going to keep it to myself, see if we surprise anyone.
Alrighty, be sure to hang out here at...
Spoiler alert, I don't think we will. No.
be sure to hang out here on DerbyNewsNetwork.com. Coming up at 1:30, we've got the junior exhibition, and then at 3:15, men's national champs. It's the grudge match between the Ole Warriors versus Your Mom Men's Roller Derby. And then at 5, the game you're waiting for, the women's national champions, Ole Rollers versus Port Tortured. I'm Bangers and Smash.
And just one note, it looks like it just does look like Grania Hunter is recovered from that injury. I just wanted to point that out before we go to break in case anyone was concerned. But, yes, thank you very much, Bangers and Smash. I'm Bulldog, and thank you very much for tuning in.
As we're live at trackside, I'm here with Sarah O'Connor from... I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all Irish, right?
Well,
just add the O.
Well, it's certainly time for a drink, I think, as you guys
now maybe, yes.
Time to pop the cork on that champagne.
I think now is the time, yes.
So, your team from Seattle, I feel like they put a lot of focus on athleticism. Can you tell me about the decision to drop the Derby names?
It's just something like, we're focusing on athleticism, like a real sport, Derby when it first started, grassroots, like there's a room for all types of Derby, USARS, WFTA, bank track, recreational, professional, and I think going forward we just want to model after all other big names, NFL, NHL, so that, we just decided to do that.
So, obviously as somebody who kind of built a name in Derby under, the nicknames. I imagine this was not an easy decision for your team to come to.
No, we debated back and forth, and Wiley will always be me and a part of me. I've skated with these girls, some of these girls for 7 years. So on the track, you'll hear Wiley, ooh, Sarah. It took me actually a really long time to get used to hearing my real name. I'm like, oh yeah, my name's Sarah. So I don't know, we go back and forth, and I think there's room for that as well. Like the Chicago Bears had the refrigerator Perry. So you can have your real name, but have your persona as well.
Well, Wiley, thanks for joining me here. And our coverage will continue here on Derby News Network of the 2013 Roller Derby National Championships. Congratulations on your third place victory.
Thank you so much, and love for all Derby. Woo!